guys, it's Lizzie. Today I'm answering a question from Karen that was sent to me through my Facebook page, and it was a really long message, so I decided to just answer it through a video, and I'm sure a lot of you guys will be able to relate to it. Isn't my laptop adorable? My sister gave me these decals for Christmas. So the first part of her message, she says, "Hey, I'm also a Christian. I just wanted to know if it is necessary to go to church. I mean, I don't really like church, but I've been told I have to go because it is necessary to be committed to a church every week according to God." So there's a Bible verse directly addressing this. It's Hebrews 10:25, and it says, "Let us not give up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." So the first Sunday that I was at Pepperdine, we had a little college meeting, and our college minister said that we should think of church as not what can I get out of it, but what can I put into it. Because we are the church. It's not a place that you go and that you're fulfilled. Like, I am the church. You're the church. We're all the church. And so we all need to be contributing to encouraging each other. The first thing I would do is if, you just really don't like the church, find a new church. There's tons of different churches. And if your parents had been going to this church for a certain amount of time, I would just have a conversation with them and be like, I really want to grow spiritually and I want to connect with God more and grow in my relationship with God, but I just don't feel like I can do that at our church. And if you just explain to them that you want to grow in your relationship with God, I'm sure that they'll listen and try to find a better church for you guys to go to. When I was in high school, the church I went to, I didn't like that much because it was very conservative and legalistic, but I got a lot out of it because I got very involved in the youth ministry and I volunteered in the children's ministry. You might not connect in big church, in the auditorium, but you will connect if you join a youth group with people like you. I think it's really important to be meeting Christians who are your age, because you realize that there's people who are going through the same struggles and temptations that you are at school, and then yet you come together and you're friends and you can encourage each other. And so it's really great to build those relationships. There would be a lot of times at my church where we'd be singing these 1800s old school songs. I wouldn't even understand the words of them, and I'd just be like, this is like ridiculous. And so when we would be singing those songs, I would just get the songbook out, flip to a song that I did like and that I did feel spiritual from, and I would just read the words and meditate on the words. And then, if the sermon was terrible, I would just get out my Bible and read the Bible on my own. But a positive thing about going to a church that doesn't connect with you is that you realize that the church that you go to isn't going to form your relationship with God. You have to do that on your own by having your own Bible studies and your own prayers and your own worship sessions. And so it's almost nice to have a church that doesn't fulfill you at all, because that forces you to fulfill yourself in God throughout the week. So make sure to be getting involved in your youth group Bible class, and then also we had like a Wednesday youth group meeting, and some churches I know have like a Friday youth group meeting. So really get involved in the youth group and it'll get better. And so her message continues, "I also want to start reading the Bible, but I find some of the stories boring, so I was wondering if you could tell me what chapters to read. I'm looking for morals or other things that I can improve my life and my relationship with God." So if you find the Bible really boring, my guess is that you have a really weird version of the Bible, like the King James Version that's written in like 16th century English, and that might be why you're not getting anything out of it. Get a relevant Bible like the New Living Translation, the New International Version. I have the Message version, which isn't a direct translation, but it really is meant to connect with 21st century teenagers. That's why I love it. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are the Gospels. They tell the story of Jesus. They have a bunch of quotes from Jesus about living, and so that'd be a really great place to start for morals. And that is so amusing, reading like the Gospels, because Jesus is just such a character. Like, he says the funniest things that are just so sassy. Like, he's so good at arguing and he always has the best comebacks. Another really good place to look for life advice is Proverbs. Also, Ecclesiastes is right after that, and it is the book of philosophy and wisdom, and that is really awesome for advice. And then Psalms, which is the book before Proverbs, it's really long, but each chapter is like really short and it's just prayers. And so if you want to learn how to pray, just read that, and it's really cool because you read it and you learn that David is just so bold with God, and you would almost call it rude, but it's not, because his relationship with God is so close that he'll just be like, "God, why are you ignoring me? God, help me." And it's just so cool reading his prayers. A really good book to start with is James. It's amazing. After that, I would read Romans and Hebrews, because they just go over the Christian law and how it connects to the Hebrew law and how the Old Testament and the New Testament are connected, and it goes over Jesus' sacrifice and everything. Also, I really love Colossians and Philippians and 2 Timothy. Literally in my old Bible, 2 Timothy, like every single verse was underlined because I was reading it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And there's a part at the end of 2 Timothy, and Paul is talking about how he's about to die and how he's so like ready to die and ready to go in front of the throne. It's just like so cool. If you really like history, read Acts because it talks about the history of the early church. If you're a girl, I really recommend reading Esther and Ruth because Esther is about this girl who becomes queen after winning a beauty contest, and then she saves her people by risking her life, which is really cool. And then Ruth is 4 chapters long and it's just a love story that's really cute. I also really like reading Revelation. After the first 10 chapters it gets kind of crazy, but before that, if you get the Message version, it's really easy to understand, and I feel like it's totally relevant to today because basically John is writing to these churches and telling them what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, and you can really apply it to today's church. Bible reading plan for you right now: start in James, then read 2 Timothy, Colossians, Romans, Hebrew, Revelation. While you're reading that, read a chapter of Proverbs every day, or 2 every day, however many you want to. And then after you finish Proverbs, you could just read like a psalm a day or 2 psalms a day, whatever you feel like. And also read Ecclesiastes and Esther and Ruth while you're in the Old Testament. The message is continuing. I also have this problem with cursing. I've tried to stop or to curse less, but it works for a little while and then I curse again. So I don't know if cursing is bad or if it depends on the intention. The Bible's also very clear on cursing. In James 3 verses 10 and 11 it says, "Out of the same mouth comes praise and cursing. This should not be. Can both fresh water and salt water flow from the same spring?" So I think the moral of the story here is that don't ever start cursing because it's a very hard habit to break. I know that I don't like hanging out with people who curse, and so if I have a friend who is cursing a bunch, I'll be like, "Hey, can you not curse around me?" And if they're like, "No, I'm gonna curse anyway," I will stop hanging out with them because I don't want to get desensitized to cursing and I don't want to start that. If you've been cursing for a while and suddenly you want to stop cursing, I would just tell your friends, you know, I realized that God doesn't want me to curse, and so I want to stop cursing, and I would appreciate it if you didn't curse around me. And if they're your real friends, I think they're gonna respect that. I don't really think the intention matters. You listed like a bunch of words and how you don't use them in a negative way. I still think it's a curse word and you shouldn't be using it, and it's not pure language. What I would start by doing is praying about it and just asking God to help you with this, because clearly it's a struggle that you're dealing with. And something that one of my friends did, it was like 3 years ago or something, she had a rubber band around her wrist and she would snap it whenever she cursed to try to get herself to stop cursing. But I think the main thing is just keeping yourself accountable. And so not only like keep yourself accountable with God, but tell some of your friends in your youth group, like, you know, I'm trying to stop cursing. I would love if you could keep me accountable to this. And so just like whenever you're hanging out with them, if they ever hear you curse, like they're gonna be like, hey, like that's not okay. She also wants to know if I can give her band names or singers so I can check out their music. There's a lot of Christian musicians who I love. My #1 band is called Sidewalk Prophets. Their best album was The Words, I would say, but their new album's really amazing too. I also really like Barlow Girl. They're kind of not a band anymore, they disbanded, but they have released 5 albums, so you can go out and check out their music. They were like my favorite musician growing up. Also, Britt Nicole has really awesome music. Skillet and Switchfoot. I also listen to Group 1 Crew. Karen says she likes their music. And one of my new favorites is Rachel Chan. She is Francis Chan's daughter, and she has her first album out. It's amazing, and I can relate to it so much, so definitely check her out. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!